Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Hey, guys. Sorry about the late start here. I was playing around with, I was getting my character set up, like getting everything taken off of him, and I just lost track of time. But yeah, today what we're doing is we are making a DK healer. So, hey, Chicken, what's going on, man? So, as many of you will remember, about, I don't know, several weeks ago, I put out to all of the channel members here on YouTube saying, hey, request a build, let me know what it is, and I will make it for you. And it doesn't matter what it is. Hey, Wampus, what's going on, man? Welcome to the stream. And I got only a couple of responders there. Some of that is a little bit skewed because like I've made several builds for Nani and she's one of the core members of the channel. And so I've already done some stuff for some folks, but one of them was Weremughal here. Weremughal asked for a DK healer, and which is really cool because I honestly had been planning on kind of doing this to show everybody that DK healers they're totally fine to run right now. There's not a lot of they're good, first of all, and there's also not really a strong, compelling reason for most your just average groups running veteran trials to really need to worry about, having only certain classes and what have you. It just matters less and less because there's a lot more places to get most of the buffs that you would want. And anyway, so I just kind of wanted to show that. And there's also like a fairly good argument to be made for, some optimization standpoint that like a DK healer could make more sense than a DK tank in certain situations. So I just wanted to demonstrate that. Saying those things is one thing. At least it feels like you really got to show people if you want them to really understand. So that's what we're going to try to do today. I am just emptying. I had too much stuff on this character, just a bunch of garbage. So you'll forgive me as I go through and get rid of everything. I think we're going to do a couple of more streams. Hey, what's up, man? The anti-DK guy. Hey, I'm not anti anything. I have to be a little bit opposed to stuff that everybody knows is the best when it's maybe not, or when it actually isn't. So, and also just to point out and to kind of demonstrate for people that like when we're talking about, even when it is like the best, we're usually talking about a very small margin, and you don't want to completely ignore having fun with the game by playing the class or race or whatever you want to for the sake of this tiny bit of optimization that for 99.999% of people just doesn't matter. Just absolutely does not matter to them. And when we've talked with sweaty people here on the channel, pretty much everybody agrees on those exact points. But just like you go into a random pug group with people that don't know mechanics and you're in like some veteran Dread Cell Reef or it could be anywhere, but Rock Rove or something, right? And people don't know mechanics, but or the only mechanics or the only way of doing a fight is like the hard mode strat. That's what everybody's learned, and it's a pug that like should not at all be doing the hard mode strat, but they just like that's what they've seen. So like, sure, in a pug, we're gonna stack all the DPS on one side on the twins or something else like that. It just people will just see what is optimal and they'll want to copy it, which is it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm not knocking that. It's just that you got to think for yourself is what it comes down to. You just got to avoid groupthink if at all possible in life, in video games, and everything else. So that's what I'm trying to really push everybody towards is like let's think for ourselves a little bit. Let's see if question our presuppositions, question what we think we know, and see how everything shakes out, I guess. So what we're gonna do is I was gonna put on. You know what? We won't put on gear just yet. Maybe we will. It'll give us a little bit more of a rough idea of what all of these values are going to come out to. But I was starting to say a while ago is that I'm thinking that we're gonna need to do some more videos and more live streams like this in the near future, and I think that we're gonna walk through in detail some of the things that we've talked about I've talked about in various videos, and then we've talked about here kind of informally and in different situations, because the message is not getting out. And I'm on a mission to civilize here, I guess. But the message is really not getting out. There's a lot of people that are just not on this, and it's okay for us to disagree. My point is not to like avoid any disagreement, but we gotta get the facts straight at least, and I really want to get there for everybody. Wamba says agree, have fun and go outside the box. Yeah, absolutely. And don't bring some garbage build to really hard content. Where no one's saying that. No one's suggesting that. But at the same time, like if we're just doing, a normal veteran, trial or dungeon, like, do we need to be on the meta whatever with everything? No, it's really not going to matter. In dungeons, which is what most people run, it's even less important because you're giving buffs to only 2 DPS typically, as opposed to 8 DPS. So even though you think of like, oh well, a trial is 3 times the people, well, the damage dealer is actually 4 times, and so those buffs and everything matter a lot more for trials than they do for 4-man content, which is what most people are running. So again, I don't think it matters that much for 12-man content, but even less so for 4-man. And you always want to do the things that are going to set you up for success the best. I mean, that's ideally right, but yeah, you just got to remember the fun factor as well. So I think a couple of things that we'll be talking about later on the week, or I don't know, I might get sidetracked, is we got to talk about tank resistances and we got to talk about tank races. We just got to go over it. I've gone over it when I thought it was like pretty painful detail before, but I just think if we keep talking about it, then maybe we can get the message sent home. Okay, enough of that. So today, let's get back on this DK healer thing. So we're in SPC, Pillager's Profit is what we're going to be running. This will, this could give us a little bit of odd values because we're going to be single barring 1. I don't think it's going to be too bad though, since we're not actually healing ourselves and proccing our 5-piece bonus. But, Symphony and then Pearls of Elnave. This is a little bit of a sweatier setup that I would typically run on my healer. And, for most content, honestly, I don't usually mess with optimizing for dungeons because it's just not necessary. If you just optimize for trials, like you can just run whatever in dungeons in, really all situations, but unless you want to like min-max. So we're going to start, and we're making a DK healer. So, of course, we need our medicinal use. Every build, every situation, you always want medicinal use. So we're going to grab that. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me pop this up. Let me see here. Oh, that's really bad. Let me move that. It's going to be right in the way. Did I do this the whole time last time? Let me move this chat background real quick, guys. Give me just a second. Let me see if I can grab everything. I think that's it. Yeah, let's just move that over. How about there? Or should we put it in the center? Maybe we'll just put it in the center for today, just in case there's stuff behind me that is useful. We'll just do that for now. For right now. Cool. All right. So what do we want to do, guys? So we want to make a DK healer. That's our goal here. And with, unfortunately, the current state, I am going to use my knowledge to a large extent, although I'll try to walk through things with you guys. And let me know if you have any questions. Now's a great time to ask any questions. So we will lean into, my knowledge of things for the most part, except for where I think it's really helpful, and then I'll kind of reason through it with you guys out loud. So in ESO, on healers, it's not like tanks and it's not like DPS. They're really the resto staff skill line you kind of need. I'm not saying you couldn't do without it. I think Weremugel was actually playing with a build that he was doing just that, but there's a lot of stuff that you really need, or it just makes a lot of sense to have, that everybody should have. So in some ways, this isn't bad. Like if you think about tanks, oftentimes your main taunt comes from either, sword and board or from the Destro Staff skill line. And so that's going to be on your bar, right? And then maybe you want to run Elisus, which is, Wall of Elements. So you got a couple of skills. It's a little bit more so on a healer because there's some classic Gnostic skills that are really good. And they're so good that it's kind of like, why not run them? And when you look at healer classes in general, if you get 1 or 2 actual class healing abilities on your bar, like 1 is not atypical. 2 is good. If you've got 3, oh man, that's a really, like, if you want pure raw heals, that's going to be a really strong class, okay? And it's really funny because classes that have, for example, Necros have really good heals. You've got several abilities that are class-based, whether it's your healing tether, whether it's, and I'm forgetting the name of all these things. You dropped a large AoE, which is really cool because if it consumes a corpse, it puts the Necro skull symbol on the ground, which is really cool. And that provides a heal over time. You have good single target heals. There's more, okay? We're not talking about the Necro, but there's more. So we're going to see today, like, what do we have for the DK? But I can tell you a spoiler alert is that even like on a Necro, which I think is probably the best, as far as pure healing abilities from the class, or at least it's tied with the best, we're gonna see what we end up with, but it's not going to be more than like 3 abilities. Now we might have some other abilities that are useful from our class kit. We often find this with a lot of different classes. Again, we're looking at a couple of skills. It's not the situation, and that's why healers kind of don't have that much of a class identity. And I think this is something they could really work on with, balancing and everything in ESO right now, is that it would be nice if healers had more class identity, and it wasn't just the passives, which is mostly what it is, that really changes things. Warden being the one where you can actually provide for your entire group major resolve, so that's like the one exception, right? Which is why you want a warden in every group. So all right, that out of the way, let's just go ahead and start. So we want combat prayer. Why do we want combat prayer? Well, combat prayer is going to provide our group with minor berserk and minor resolve. Minor resolve, it reduces their damage taken by about 5% for 10 seconds, and this buff just lasts for 10 seconds, I guess. And minor berserk increases damage done by 5%. Now, things have been changing over time, and there are situations where maybe you could do away with minor berserk and find other sources of that. Your DPS maybe already has it. Something else. But right now, like, we can look at that at more detail, but right now I think it really just makes sense to start there, and then we can move away from that. So we're going to go with the Illustrious Healing. For those who don't know, Healing Springs is not really working great. It will pick the same 6 people, and it will only heal those 6 people, and it won't heal others. So this is a problem. And if you have people that are like, so you have a 8 DPS in a trial, for example, and you're the 7th DPS and you're taking damage, this Healing Springs is not going to heal you. So this is just a case of spaghetti go until we get confirmation they fix this. We want to go with Illustrious Healing. I think Illustrious Healing is also kind of a good idea. I've gone back and forth on this. The other morph provides you with a little bit of recoveries, but do you really need it? I personally don't find it. Certain healers probably would, but generally speaking, the longer duration is going to make it easier on us to keep up more of our heal over times. So those are the 2 main skills here we want from our Resto Saf skill line. We could also use, if we wanted, Radiating Regeneration. This is a really good heal situationally, so it either heals you or up to 3 nearby allies. This is great in dungeons when everybody's spread out. You can't hit anybody. It's also great in certain trial fights as well, because people are spread out and what have you. The problem I see with so many new healers is that they will use this as a spammable. And guys, if they already have the hot on them, casting it again is not going to do anything for you or them. So it's kind of a wasted. I just see that so often with new healers, just spamming it. If you want something to spam, it's combat prayer. Please spam combat prayer. Don't spam Radiating Regen. So I guess we can leave it on our bar for now. Now, a couple of other skills, and we're just going to kind of walk through this real quick, is Echoing Vigor. Echoing Vigor is a really good sticky hot. So whenever you cast this, it lasts for 16 seconds, and it will, it procs on half the group. So all of our heals, for those who don't know, pretty much all of our heals, unless it says otherwise, or maybe there's almost certainly it's ESO, so almost certainly some exceptions to this. But generally speaking, with your AoE heals, right, it will tell you, for example, here with Illustrious Healing, it heals you and your allies in the target area. Now, what it doesn't tell you is it actually only means 6 of your allies. So it'll only heal 6 people total. It will not heal. So in a trial, you could have 10, 11. I mean, you could have all 12 people inside that circle. It's only going to heal half of them. And that is why we need multiple sources of AoE heals to make sure that we're getting heals on everybody. Because if a lot of different mechanics, especially in trials, will damage everybody. And so if you're only healing 6 of those 12 people or 6 of those 10 people or whatever, they're going to dot out. They're going to die. So that's a problem. So just realize that you have to double cast Echoing Vigor to make sure you hit everybody. But it's really nice because then if they move outside of the area, they have to go do something or whatever, you're moving from point A to point B, it's going to stay on them. And so it's a way of healing people whenever a fight is fairly mobile. So really good heal. If it's stationary, it's a good enough heal that you probably just want to use it anyway. So a lot to recommend Echoing Vigor. Let me see here. Yeah, so typically what we would run is we would run Warhorn on our back bar. Oh, I don't have this leveled up. That's funny. All right, so we'd run Warhorn on our back bar because that's what we're going to use. It just depends what we're using. If we're Pillager Profiting, if we're using, that set, then we might actually want to run Barrier. Now, the optimal thing to do in sweaty groups is to actually run Replenishing Barrier. And the reason for that is because each time the ward dissolves, you restore 4 ultimate. So if you hit everybody in the group, you're getting a lot of ulti back from this. What is that? 48 ulti back. So this is actually one that if we're running Pillager's Profit and we don't need a Warhorn, probably we would double bar this. And that's just so that we could Pillager's Profit even more often. A lot of times you have plenty of ultimate. It's not that big of a deal, but there's not really another reason to just kind of hit Barrier a lot of times. Usually when you're timing your Pillager's Profit, it's based on damage windows that you're doing as a party, and everybody drops their ultimate, and then you give them the Pillager's Profit so they get it up quicker. You're not really timing it like, oh, we're about to take damage, we'll take that Barrier now. It's usually not the case in more optimized groups. If you're at a less optimized group, or you're just like having a panic heal or what have you in a dungeon, whatever, then sure, the reviving Barrier is the way to go. And for a lot of new groups, that's probably the best thing. You're going to be sitting on your ultimate anyways. So just realize there's some nuance here with this particular skill. Now, if we look down here at Magic Aid, we see that it increases our magic recovery by 5% for each support ability slotted. And you'll see that you need to be rank 9 in PvP to get the second bonus, but just by being on our bar, it's also going to give us 5% recoveries back. Hey guys, welcome in. Feel free to say hello, ask questions, and what have you. I see everybody popping in. So we'll want to take that. We don't need Combat Medic here. That's for actual PvP. Look at our passives here. Continuous Attack. We'll see that's also for PvP. Also for PvP. So we don't really need the passives from the Assault skill line here. Not really doing much for us. We happen to be a high elf, so we do have all of our passives there. For Undaunted, so the Necrotic Orb, if we actually choose the Energy Orb morph, this heals. Energy Orb is a really, really good heal. It also provides us with a synergy, and the synergy on this, guys, how do I say this? It's a really, that synergy is really good. And there are places where this will double proc, and so it's even better for a lot of our supports to have this skill on our bar and to be able to provide it. It's a great heal. It only lasts for 10 seconds, but it does provide that synergy, which really we want for our tanks, to be honest with you, more than anything else. But that synergy is quite good. So that's why we usually keep this skill. If we look at our Undaunted command, we see that activating a synergy restores max resources. That's definitely something we want, so we'll take that. We also see increasing our max health and stamina by 1% for each type of armor. It's a minor thing because we're mostly going to be running light armor. We don't want to go 5-1-1 on a healer. We want to go all light typically, but we'll grab it anyways because it's a nice to have. And that's has this set up pretty well. On Mage's Guild, I should have Old Sild's Contingency. Well, we might have to get to that. I'm kind of the mind that there's a handful. We'll get to scribing. We'll get to scribing a little bit later, actually. Now, let's go ahead and move on and talk about, so we got some of these base heals on our bar that I think we really need. Again, we can do away with radiating regen. It can be a flex spot depending on what we're doing. Now, let's look at what's actually going to be beneficial to us as a Dragon Knight. So, our Ardent Flame abilities. So, most of these are DPS abilities with... Yeah, they're all DPS abilities. One thing I'll point out is that Engulfing Flames will increase the damage done by fire attacks by up to 6%. 6% based on what our weapon and spell damage is. It says currently at 5%. That'll go up to 6 if we're buffed and everything else. So usually with any DK DPS you have in the group, which is doing a bunch of fire damage, they're always going to have this skill anyways. So in theory, we could use this. And maybe if we're in a group where people were doing flame damage, but they weren't DKs, we could provide this buff. But it's pretty niche. Honestly, it's pretty niche and not something we're probably going to need. So we'll mark it there and we'll call it, we'll call that good. The other heal ability here, and honestly, like you can click through these guys and see that, like, okay, these are two different kinds of damaging ability. Sure, there's a heal on one of these, but it doesn't really matter. It's not for us. Lava Whip is just a spammable. So again, not abilities we're typically going to be using. Similarly with Fiery Grip, but with Inferno here, we actually have Cauterize. Activate an Aura Embers, which causes the wounds of you or up to 4 nearby allies every 3 seconds, healing for 3,500. While slotted on either bar, you gain Major Sorcery and Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing your weapon and spell critical. So what this morph does, instead of Flames of Oblivion, is that it actually heals. So this is another one. This is actually kind of an interesting skill. If you're in dungeons, I mean, it's you up to 4 nearby allies, healing them once every 3 seconds. This is basically a DK version of having Radiating Regen. So this is a good dungeon skill, and in certain fights where the group is really spread out, this is actually a legit heal. Now, in most situations, it's probably not going to be as good of a heal or the kind of heal that you really want. The other thing is that you can spam this if you want. Spamming this will actually do something, right? Spamming Radiating Regen is just going to refresh the hot, not really going to do that much. Spamming this will actually provide them with a burst heal because it should go off when you cast it, as opposed to once every 3 seconds you could recast it to hit those those same 3 people. Again, this could be very useful in 4-man content or in any situation where you're really spread out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this kind of like specced into so that we know that, hey, there might be a use for this. And I guess I'll do this with engulfing. I don't really think that engulfing, like if I was doing a video, I wouldn't mention engulfing because I don't think, while there is a situation where it could be useful, I think it's like probably not really. And so, I always try and keep my videos short, and it's kind of like that in-depth info that I wouldn't normally include in a build guide, but it is something you should know. And keep that in mind with everybody's build guides, guys, whether it's mine or somebody else's. Even though I go pretty in-depth on all this stuff, I'm always leaving stuff out. If you want to know, read your class skills, read your passives, and figure out what everything does. Okay, so that's going pretty well there. We've got, it's actually pretty cool that we've seen, like, this would be really, really good in a dungeon. So could be something that we say, hey, you know what? DKs are actually pretty good dungeon healers, but we'll have to see. Now let's take a look at what else we have here. Excuse me as I grab some tea. All right, so we have Combustion, increasing your... So, guys, if you just read the passives on any class or all the skill lines, you will know more than, like, not lying, like at least 95% of players, probably more. If you just read, and you know what, some of them are tricky, some of them don't work the way you'd think, but if you can read, if you can understand what all of them mean, like, you'll know more than like 99% of players. And I have said this before, and my wife has told me that, like, hey, I've read the passives and it doesn't help because I don't necessarily understand what they mean. So I get it. It's not as easy as just like reading them. You do have to understand, and maybe I can go through and we can do that sometime. But we'll go through that now, at least for the DK. But just understanding these passives will put you far ahead of the curve. So increases the damage of your burning and poison status effects by 40%. We don't really care about that. We're not trying to do damage. And if we were on a damage build, this is just kind of part of our build. It's not really a big deal. That's just kind of part of the DK class. It should be built into our build, most likely. When you apply burning or poison to an enemy, you restore 1,000 magicka or stamina. This effect can occur once every 3 seconds. Wow, that sounds really cool. Now, recently, I did the video where we walked very in-depth through every single one of the tank classes and their recoveries, and we talked about Combustion. And I actually overestimated the worth of this ability. So, as far as I know, and I could be wrong on this, the best skill to use to keep this passive procced is going to be elemental susceptibility. And the reason for that is because elemental susceptibility, here, let's pop over, elemental susceptibility automatically procs the chilled, burning, and concussed status effect once every 7.5 seconds. It's actually more than that because it procs it like right when you cast it and at the end, so it ends up being like one extra proc during that time. But just keeping up elemental susceptibility will give you about a 50% uptime on the combustion passive. So it won't proc on cooldown, but it will give you about a 50% uptime. Now, you might say, hey, well, what about, something like Burning Embers? Well, it heals you for a percent of the damage done, but it guarantees the application of the status effect. The thing is, that's only on the first hit. And I have tested this out with all of these skills that I can think of, and it just doesn't proc as much as elemental susceptibility because it has that guaranteed proc on average. So you could layer up several things to get yourself really good recoveries, but just realize that probably not. It's probably not the best way, and we can look into this more as we're kind of making this build today. All right, now moving on, Warmth here. When you deal direct damage with an Ardent Flame ability, you reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30%. Cool, most enemies we're going to want to deal with are not going to be slowable, so that doesn't really matter. It's more of a PvP thing. Searing Heat, increase the damage over time of your Fiery Breath, Searing Strike, and Dragonknight Standard by 25%, and duration by 4 seconds. Again, not really going to matter, right? Just increase damage. And then we have increased damage again. So, again, not really things we're that concerned about as a healer, unless we're doing some hybrid build, which we're not really doing today. All right, so we can move on now to our Draconic Power. Now, as I've mentioned before, and this varies class to class, but most classes have a DPS skill line, which is our Ardent Flame. Most classes have a more tanking focus, which is Draconic Power, and then a healing focus, which is vaguely Earth and Heart, but not really. Different classes will hold true to that more than others, and it's kind of variable, so just keep that in mind. So here we have Spiked Armor. That's going to provide armor for us. We're not really worried about that. We have Dark Talents. Now this could be interesting. If we look here, we see that, this other morph down here provides Minor Maim. Okay, now typically there's a lot of places now you can get Minor Maim. So Choking Talons used to be something that you could use for this AoE Minor Maim. It also holds enemies in place. This is kind of a useful skill. You could even run the Burning Talons if you want it to just do more damage. But this could be a useful skill if you're in a pug dungeon. Again, this whole thing keeps coming up. If you're in a dungeon where you could CC targets, if you got a fake tank, you don't have a real tank or whatever, hold the ads in place, let the DPS move away and kill them from a little bit of range. Probably not too much, but this could be something that's useful. The 5% reduced damage, probably not going to make or break anything. There are a lot of sources if you're in a trial where you're probably going to have Minor Maim anyways, but just know about it. And there's a lot of situations where you can get that, but it is an interesting skill, at least for a dungeon. And you know what? We'll go ahead and spec into it. Again, I wouldn't include this on a build normally because there's not time, and I don't think it's really that useful, but it's an interesting and fun skill. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be talking for the next hour and a half or whatever. We can talk about it here. So Green Dragon's Blood only heals yourself, which is, or Dragon's Blood, I'm sorry, both morphs. So not really useful to us as a healer. Protective Scale. This is a really cool ability that is very situational and is something that we're pretty much never going to use. So this provides you with a damage shield. This is really a tanking or DPS ability. If you're in a situation where you as a healer want a damage shield, probably your entire group needs it. And so we're going to do other things that are going to provide that damage shield. So not really going to do much for us. Then Inhale. This is another like super specific ability here. If you look at Deep Breath, the initial hit interrupts enemies that are casting. So this is an AoE interrupt. There are not many of these in the game. There are, I think you can do this with scribing now. I'm not sure if you can AoE interrupt. I know you can interrupt with scribing skills. I bet you can AoE interrupt. But you can also do this on like a Templar, and maybe, I think those are mainly the two that I can think of besides maybe scribing skills. So this can be very useful situationally, dungeons, in trials where you need to interrupt several ads or whatever. It's a damaging ability otherwise. Just keep that in mind. It's again a dungeon focused thing where it's very situational. Robert Miller says, I think Soul Burst can get the interrupt, but not totally sure. There you go. I think we'll look at scribing here in just a bit, and we'll go through it in more detail. All right, so that's it for our skills. Draconic Leap, I'm sorry, just does damage and stuns, and then our Dragonknight Standard gives us a whole bunch of damage mitigation and increases our damage, but doesn't do anything else. I forgot to mention those. Let's look at the passives now. So Iron Skin increases the amount of damage you can block by 10%. Tanking ability, right? Draconic, while a Draconic power ability is active, your healing received is increased by 12%. Again, that's going to be a tanking kind of thing. DNC Fox says Crushing Shock does the same thing, so dealer's choice there. Yeah. Well, we're talking about AoE specifically, though, Fox. Yeah. Crushing Shock is great. That's from the Dexter Staff skill line. We'll talk about it here more in a minute, but sometimes you need a ranged interrupt or just interrupt in general. Crushing Shock can work pretty well. Yeah. But as far as AoE interrupts, there's very few. And there's also very few situations where you really need it, but, just as an FYI. All right, next up is Elder Dragon. It increases your health recovery. Health recovery is like the most useless stat in the game, so or at least close to it, so we don't really care. And then we get increased physical resistance. You know what? It's nice. We'll take the bonus resistances, right? Like as a healer, sometimes you're when you're new especially, and when you're experienced, you forget to stand in your own heals and you dot out. So having extra resistances is not bad. Fox says, never thought that on any of my heals. I'm sorry, in regard to what, Fox? The interrupt or one of the other things there. I'm sorry, this delay sometimes. AoE interrupt. Yeah. Places like VMall, which is like so old, most people kill stuff before. But VMall, some of the ads there, there will be multiple, and you want to keep them interrupted, so you kind of have to hit. Someone needs to. Usually the tank will need to hit maybe a DPS, the AoE interrupt, and man, there's a couple of other places. They're just not coming to mind right now where you just need to interrupt multiple targets. All right, so we don't really have any cool passives in our Draconic power skill line. We kind of figured that out here. So we'll move on to our Earth and Heart, and hopefully we're getting at this point to some cool DK abilities, right? Because right now what we got is a little tough. Like I probably wouldn't actually include engulfing here. So we kind of just have one. So hopefully we have one, and it's really geared towards dungeons. So it's not amazing. So hopefully we'll get some more stuff here. All right, so first of all, we have Magma Shell. Not going to need to use this. Again, I guess if you're in a dungeon and things go wrong and you got a fake tank or something, you could tank for a second. I don't know. Could be cool. Probably not something you're really going to use. Then we have Stone Fist. Now, Stone Fist, if we go to Stone Giant, this applies Stagger. Stagger is a unique buff that only DKs can provide. It's one of the few that they have. Well, one of several they have, actually. I say few. They have several. So it's one of several unique buffs that DKs have. Now, the trick with this is you have to apply it once every 6 seconds, which means you're casting it typically on the 5th second because it's a ranged ability to make sure you keep up the stacks. This ability will increase group damage significantly, particularly in trial content, because again, you have 4 times the DPS, and this is going to matter per DPS, doing damage to the enemy. So this is a significant amount of DPS, specifically in trials. Normally, I say normally, there's kind of 2 situations that normally happen. Normally is doing a lot of work here, where you either have your main tank who's really sweaty, who will keep up Stone Giant for the group, or you can put this on a DPS, a DK, usually a Zenkosh DPS. Now, Zenkosh DPS can run this with minimal to almost no damage loss. The number of DKs that want to do that are essentially 0. The number of DKs that want to keep this up as part of their rotation, because the meta thing right now is to be a mag DK. And this is a stamina costing ability that you got to hit. So it makes your sustain a little bit weird. It's pretty difficult. You got to make sure you don't want to drop the stacks. If you're dropping the stacks, then it's not, not going to work very good, right? You really need to keep them up. And it becomes like a semi-spammable. So you almost have like a crow-like, or like a maybe like a warden-like rotation, where you have like a semi-spammable. On a warden, that's your shocks. On a necro, that's your blast bones. So, it's something that honestly would kind of make a decent amount of sense for a healer to use. The best thing, I think, is to use this as your spammable on a stamina DK. I'm sorry, when I say best for the ease of use. That I made a build. I have a Zenkosh DK that, and even if you're not Zenkoshing, you can use Stone Giant as your spammable, and it does pretty good. It's a few K DPS off of meta, okay, because there's better spammables out there, but it allows you to keep it up without really having to think about it, and the group gain on the DPS in a trial setting is high enough that it's worth the cost. But yeah, this is absolutely something that we as a DK healer could keep up. And, again, it's kind of a really difficult skill to keep up, and it can be tricky in certain situations. If you have to panic heal, you're not going to be able to keep this up. So it's not something that non-sweaty groups should probably really be doing, period, unless you put it on a DPS, which is why I made that Zenkosh build where it's your spammable for those non-sweaty groups to still have like optimal setups. But we'll keep this in mind. Next up here is Molten Armaments, and we're going to choose the Igneous Weapons Morph. Igneous Weapons Morph gives us a 72-second duration. This is absolutely wild. So some DK in a group, if it needs to be running this, and why not you as a healer, right? As I mentioned before, typically there are a couple of skills that from each class that are not heals that you'll want to run on any given healer. And this is one of them for a DK. Stone Giant being kind of the other. So we're going to put this on our bar once every 72 seconds. Going to be super easy to keep up, right? Cast it at the beginning of the fight. Just make sure to cast it some other time in the fight, and we'll be okay. And we'll be able to keep that buff up for our group. And then the tank or the DPS, if we have one, are not going to need to run this. Now let's look at Obsidian Shield here. This is an interesting one. So normally if you're a tank, you run Igneous Shield. And if we look through here, I bet it's going to tell us. Cool. So this gives major mending to you, increasing your healing received, and then we see that the damage value your own shield absorbs more. Yeah, there it is, and it scales off of your max health. Whenever you see max health, typically you want to think this is a tanking ability. Now, not to say someone else couldn't use it, so consider it, and especially if you're running like a solo build where you want to run around with maybe you're soloing stuff that's not really meant to be soloed, and sometimes you want to buff up your health and you got like 30k health or something, could be worth it. But since we're on a typical healer, we're not going to have that much health or whatever. We're not on some hybrid build. We want to look at maybe fragmented shields. So call the earth to your defense, creating a damage shield for you and nearby allies that absorbs 1800 damage. This portion of the ability scales off your max health. So it's also max health scaling. Okay, well that's interesting. So what does the other one do? Well, this one increases the shield strength just on yourself, and this one increases the duration of major mending. Well, you also gain major mending. Well, that's not really that important. That kind of doesn't seem very good. One of these gives more healing received for longer, and the other one gives us a bigger shield on ourselves. Kind of disappointing. Kind of feels like this is just a tank skill, but we're gonna take a look. There's really increases the duration of the major mending on ourselves, or gives. I feel like giving ourselves the bigger shield is probably the way to go. Like, kind of nothing really strongly recommends. So we do see that it is level 1, so I assume that it will scale up a bit, but this will only typically affect, I believe, unless they've changed it, 3 other targets. So it's going to be us and 3 other targets. That's really going to be a dungeon situation, is I think what we'll find. We're not really going to be able to use this in a trial. Only hitting 3 other people when there's 12 people, 11 other people in the group, not really going to be worth the skill cast because it only lasts for 8 seconds as well. So another one of these abilities that we're like, hey, this might be like a dungeon, type ability, kind of like Carterize. And again, guys, remember as we're going through making this build, and I should have said this kind of at the beginning. I remember I've said this before, is that we are going to put some skills here, and then it's an iterative process. So we're going to go through, do all the reasoning, all the logic, and then we're going to go back through it again, okay? And we're going to say, wait, okay, we might say, okay, this is good. Let's put it on our bar, but we might find something better, and we'll just replace it. And so that's what we'll do. Now, Petrify here is an ability that stuns. This Nidomorph is actually particularly useful, so we're not going to worry about it. Sorry, I don't have it leveled up on this character. And then Ash Cloud. Now, this is an interesting one here. So we have Cinderstorm, heals for significantly more. And then we have Eruption, which damages instead of healing. Well, we're on a healer, so let's look at Cinderstorm. Summon a scorching cloud of ash at the target location for 18 seconds, reducing enemy movement by 70%. Again, not really going to matter for us, and healing you and your allies for almost 2k every 1 second. Now, I can tell you, because I know the values of most of this stuff, typically speaking, your illustrious healing, most of your heals heal for about 1800 every 2 seconds. Kind of depends on what your buffs are, but about that mark is what you get. So this healing 2k is actually a little bit, it should be a little bit better than most of these other skills. And it kind of just depends. So if we look at like Energy Orb, okay, actually, I'm sorry, yeah, 1400 every 1 second might be a little bit higher. Maybe I'm getting that number wrong. We'll have to check. Sorry, I think I'm going off memory here, and I think my memory is failing me. So Cinderstorm, I think it's going to be a significant heal. We'll test it out in a second, just to confirm. Another really interesting thing about this is you see the cost on this, 23 magicka per second. It's basically free. That's really interesting. The reason for that, we'll just confirm here. The reason for that is if we look at our gear, typically we'll be running something that reduces the spell cost. Okay, so we have several things that will decrease, really just one actually. So if we had 2, this would be literally a free skill. Literally wouldn't cost anything to cast it. And the reason for that is when you have skills that are per second, every time you pay the cost, any jewelry or whatever that reduces the cost of something applies every time you pay the cost. Well, the relative cost on this is pretty low. So when we have minus 324 or whatever magicka per second, it gets the price down to almost being free. This also happens with Arcanist healers, where you have the same thing, where on an Arcanist, you can use your healing beam on multiple setups, even on a tank or whatever, and it can be free or almost free because you can get the cost per tick down incredibly low because it applies every time you have to pay that cost. It can make these cost over time abilities be free or at least incredibly cheap. So that's pretty cool. Now, one of the things with this is that we'll notice is that, look at this. Oh, wrong bar. Here we go. Is that the area is relatively small. That's going to be the biggest detriment. You can also see the Cauterize healing 3 random people here. It's kind of cool. But you can see that it's pretty small area, which is going to be really a detriment and why this isn't such an awesome skill, but it's not bad. All right, now let's look at our passives here. We have increased duration of your Earth and Heart abilities by 20%. Cool. I mean, it's already worked in, so we're not really worried about it. Battle Roar. Whenever you cast an ultimate ability, you restore all of your resources. So this is actually probably going to be honestly an issue for us, because if we're running Spell Power Cure and Pillager's Prophet, we need to keep our magicka low. And so if we cast our Pillager's Prophet and all of a sudden all of our magicka goes up to 100% because of this Battle Roar passive, like, we're going to have to dump all of our mag again. That could be a problem. There is a situation where as you as a Pillager's Prophet DK may want to take the points out of this skill or out of this passive so that you can more effectively be a Pillager's Prophet healer. So keep that in mind. A really niche, a really kind of odd thing, but it's there. I don't know what else to tell you. It's kind of odd. It just doesn't really work well with Pillager's Prophet. If you're not the Pillager's Prophet healer, then probably this doesn't matter, and probably it's a great thing. I mean, if you're a Rojo healer, free bars, extra sustain, that's great. So keep that in mind. Kind of an odd thing there for a DK that's really super specific to them. Now, Mountain's Blessing. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you and your group gain minor brutality for 20 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 10%. This is another one of those unique abilities, unique buffs that a DK can provide. So it's Mountain's Blessing, we got Stone Giant, Igneous Weapons here. I think of those are the three main ones that we've talked about so far. So if you are in combat, you also gain 3 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. This ultimate gen thing is like most classes have something like this where you get ultimate. So you get for X seconds, you get X divided by 2 ultimate. It's just kind of a formula on like half the classes, maybe a little bit more. And then other ones have different things that kind of equate to the same thing with like 1 or 2 exceptions. So we're not usually worried about the ulti gen on this, but maybe we could be. This could be a way as us as a healer could generate more ultimate. The thing is, we're going to see that there's a scribing skill now that will far outweigh this. And so there's usually a better cast that we could do that will give us major heroism, which will give us back a ridiculous amount of ultimate. I believe it's like 18 ultimate every time you cast it, and it lasts for essentially like 10 seconds. So nine technically, but it takes a second and a half to cast it. So that's a ton of ultimate. That's 18. And that takes 10 seconds. And this would be at most 6 in 12 seconds. So not nearly as good. If we have the extra cast for it, then sure, maybe. But, if we're keeping up Stone Giant, we'll do it kind of automatically because we got to cast it like once every 5 seconds anyways. Igneous Weapons has too long of a duration. We could use Igneous Shield. But as we kind of like looked at this, it's not really that good. So not really a compelling reason to use it. And then our Cinder Storm as well. So, again, we cast this once every 18 seconds. So not really as useful. I will note, because this is such a small area of effect on the Cinder Storm, and because it costs so little, it's basically free. If your group moves, you just recast it. Now, you don't want to be constantly recasting this because you're not casting your other heals if you're doing that. But it's something to keep in mind, recasting it periodically, or if your group moves and they're going to be staying in the new location, it would be totally fine to do that. All right, what else do we have here? Is that... Oh, yeah. And then the minor brutality here. So minor brutality, you absolutely want to make sure you're providing for your group. So you need to cast one of these skills once every 20 seconds. Well, Cinder Storm is once every 18. So if we keep our Cinder Storm down, we should keep this Mountain's Blessing ability procced. So it might be the case that we need to recast something to make sure that we're proccing this. We'll have to look at that because we want to make sure, typically on a DPS, it just depends. I don't know. We'll have to make sure that we're proccing this, though. It's going to be pretty important. If we're on a DK, a lot of times we use Igneous Shield to proc that, or Stone Giant. Igneous Weapons has way too long of a duration. Really wouldn't make sense to recast this early. But we do want to make sure that we're bringing this unique buff to our group whenever we're in one. So whatever it is, we want to make sure that we're bringing this buff. We'll have to look at it here in a minute. Next up is Helping Hands. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability with a cost, you restore 1100 stamina. This effect cannot activate when using a stamina costing ability and must cost more than the restored value. So there is a situation, guys, where on a DK, you could really lean into stamina costing heals. I don't really think that you could do it and it would be fine. I don't really think there's a compelling reason to, besides it's just fun. But just keep that in mind. The Helping Hands, I mean, you could use your Igneous Shields more often. You can't use your Cinder Storm because it needs to have like more of a cost, and you can't use Stone Giant because it has to be mag costing. So it's really these two skills that you're going to be using, either casting or Igneous Weapons. Not really going to make sense, but if you wanted to use your Igneous Shield to provide, more shields and get back stamina, I guess you could. This is really more of a tanking thing, though. Just something to keep in mind. And if you wanted to go like a stamina healer, maybe you could do that if you were in 4-mans using a lot of Igneous Shield. Again, this is a fairly weak shield, though, so probably not something we're actually going to do. It's a fun option, I guess. Where Moogle likes non-optimal things, so I want to make sure that I'm covering that kind of stuff because this is a build for them, for the channel members. So just keep that in mind. That is why we're making a good build, but I also want to keep in mind the audience that this is for, which is, primarily for Weremugel, right? He put out the request. He's the channel member, so want to make sure that we're addressing all the things that I think he'll care about. Okay, well, we've gone through, and so far, let's go ahead and put everything. Oh yeah, we already have that. Do we have everything? I want to make sure that we have everything that we have spec'd into on our bar. We don't have engulfing, so that we can kind of look at everything together. Cauterize. We have cauterize, right? Yeah, we have. Okay. All right. Just double checking. We don't have deep breath. Deep breath is really situational. Choking talons also like just kind of a fun thing for dungeons, really. I'm not really worried about those two. So I think we've got everything. Engulfing flames. Again, normally a DPS is going to be keeping this up, so probably we don't want to run this. We're going to yeet it from our bar for now. It's a cool thing. We also note that Cauterize is really, potentially it could be really situational. Now, I would note that, so this gives us major prophecy and savagery. Oh, let's confirm here. I want to look at I want to show you something. So if we look at our, let's hope I have some actually. Do we have some potions? Do we have some spell power potions? We don't. We don't. I just want to bring it up just to show you guys this. Let me grab some out of the bank. Hey, these will work. So, if we look at our spell power potions, and these PvP ones do the same thing. They just last for like a second or so, like less or something. But they'll still last for the full duration. So, it restores Magicka, but then it provides us with major sorcery and major prophecy, increasing our weapon and spell damage by 20%. And it provides us with spell critical. Oh, I'm sorry. What am I saying? Major sorcery, major prophecy, increasing our spell damage by 20% and our spell critical rating. I don't know why I said. I think I said something wrong there. By 2600, right? So these are the Magicka versions. If we did stamina, we would get the same buffs, but the stamina versions. If we look though at our bar, that's interesting. If we look here. Hey, major prophecy and major savagery, increasing our spell critical. So that's something that we're already getting, or we could get. So kind of interesting. And then if we look at our igneous weapons, we see that it provides major brutality and major sorcery. Wait, that sounds familiar. This provides major sorcery. So by being on a DK and by running igneous weapons, which we're always going to be running, someone is, and it might as well be us as a healer. No reason to have anybody else run this unless we just don't have the bar space as a healer. And then if we decide that we want to run Cauterize, that's interesting. Now we don't need, there's not even a compelling reason for us to run expensive potions. Now that frees us up to run, if we really want to get sweaty, we could run either, heroism potions. We could run, if we're doing something, I don't know, where we're maybe taking a lot of damage, we could run something like, I guess, resistance potions. You do need to keep in mind that you won't get the Magicka recovery from the major intellect. So that's something, if you're not getting that from a potion, then probably that's important. So you want to keep that in mind. Your sustain is going to be way worse. But we could run tri-stat potions. That could be an option, especially if we're running a lot of stamina abilities. So it just frees us up. The other thing, if we're in a dungeon and we just don't want to run expensive potions, then having Cauterize on our bar to get those buffs could increase our healing and could make a lot of sense. To me, that says that Cauterize is a really good, like I would run this in dungeons. This would be part of my standard dungeon build for me, for Cauterize. So this is like a flex spot, and I would absolutely run this during any dungeon. Stone Giant. This one I would probably not run in any dungeon unless I'm doing like a sweaty hard mode with some friends, and then I would absolutely run it. But if I'm not doing that sweaty hard mode with friends, I'm not going to run this ability. Now this is an interesting ability because, hey, what's up, Weremugel? I'm doing the thing, man. I'm doing the DK, man. I'm glad you could make it. I'm glad you could drop in. I know you might be working or what have you. So Stone Giant, the first time you cast it, that stomp drops block, so keep that in mind. Usually it shouldn't matter for you as a healer. And then after that, you throw one of these balls, and it will apply the debuff at an AoE. And then after that, I don't want to demonstrate here, but you throw those balls, and you've got 3 of them, and then you have to do the stomp again to get them up. Okay, so the first one's AoE, and after that, everything's single target. All right, so this is an ability that if I'm doing sweatier content, more difficult content, or if I'm in a trial, I'm going to consider trying to keep up. It's going to be pretty hard. You got me for 30 minutes for lunch. All right, man. Well, hey, if you got any questions or anything you want to talk about while you're free, Weremugle, let me know, man, and we can go over it. I've kind of ran through each one of the skill lines to catch you up. Each one of the skill lines, and we put every single skill that we thought was good on our bar from the DK, and then we're just talking about it. So Cauterize, we realized, like, for a dungeon, we really like this ability. Probably not something situationally maybe we could use in a trial. We haven't really talked about it too much. And then Stone Giant, like we just said, I think you caught all that. So stagger is pretty important on sweatier fights, and it makes sense for us as a healer to try to be able to keep this up because we're kind of a buff, usually healers and tanks, really about buffing DPS to make the fight go quicker, to make our lives easier. And then here for Igneous Shields. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think the shield is worth it. It hits 3 people besides you. And maybe, wait, is it 4? Oh, it's 4. It looks like it's 4. Let's go find out. Here, scientific testing. Oh, that was the wrong ability. Scientific testing right here. 1, 2, 3. I could have sworn there was a 4th at some point. Did I cast it twice? We'll let it run off. Oh, yeah. So there's 4 other people because one of them's a pet. The pet is take. That's another problem with some of this stuff is like pets take it. But okay, so it hits us and 4 other targets. Again, going to be really good, I think, potentially in dungeons, but I don't think the shield is enough. If the shield was higher, this would be better, and I just don't think it's there. Our health is not that low. What's our health at right now? We're at 21K. We got plenty of health. So, yeah, probably something I'd yeet for my bar. Really, the only reason we want to use it if we want to use it to keep up Mountain's Blessing or proc the Helping Hands, which I don't really think we care about. So probably it's getting yeeted from our bar. Okay, let's see what else we got. On the back bar, we've got a few skills. We've got Cinderstorm. Cinderstorm, basically free. Pretty epic. Pretty good heal. So, there we go. Healing for 22. Compare that to our Illustrious Healing, which is only healing for about 15. That'll go up to like 18 if we're fully buffed, which means the Cinderstorm will go up to probably like 26 or more. So, I would say that overall, like Cinderstorm, for being basically free, also needing it to proc our Mountain's Blessing passive, I think that it's probably worth running. I think it's probably a staple that we might keep on our bar. Think you're going to play around any scribing silliness with this build? Yeah, we're going to do scribing towards the... Well, I was going to do it towards the end, but we could jump to it now if you want, Weremugle, once we're done with these. So, Cinderstorm here, something we're going to keep on our bar. I think we're going to keep it on there just for the Mountain's Blessing. If we have a DPS or someone else who's keeping up skills, we could, in theory, drop this. I will say in certain fights, like, we're just going to be using it for the buff for our group because, like, the group is going to be too spread out for this to matter. But if you can get them to stack, it's a really solid heal. So this is our main class heal. Nah, you got your pace, brother. Okay, cool. Yeah. No worries, man. Igneous Weapons. So we're always going to be running this. It's not going to leave our bar. So I would say these two, Cinderstorm, Igneous Weapons, probably going to stay on our bar. I think that Stone Giant is a flex spot, and I think Cauterize here, guys, there's a situation where you could want to run tri-stats. If you're in a situation where you need a bunch of stamina, there are certain fights that just happens. You want to run tri-stat potions, or you just want to run cheap ulti pots, you could put this on your bar, and you don't even have to cast it. And I would argue it might not be worth the cast in a trial unless your group is really spread out. And again, those are the situations that you'd want to run like something like Radiant Region, where you could use this skill. And again, if you spam it, you can get those heals to go out to 3 targets. So again, very useful in a dungeon environment. typically in a trial, you want to heal more than 3 targets at a time now. So I would say that this is a flex spot with Cauterize. I haven't landed 100% on that. These 2 skills, Cinderstorm, Igneous Weapon, staying on our bar, and Stone Giant being a flex spot. But I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're a sweaty healer, for you to try to keep that up as a DK healer. All right, now we got some extra spots. What else do we need? Well, Wall of Elements, Elemental Blockade on our back bar. The reason we want this is because we're going to run always an infused weapon on our back bar. I happen to have Weakening here. You could also do a increased weapon and spell damage for increased heals. Somebody running Weakening on most boss is a great idea. And so I'm actually running this setup and this particular ability in hard mode Dreadcell Reef right now. So this is what I run, just to make sure that as long as you keep your wall down, and it's infused, it'll keep that up 100% of the time, no matter what bar you're on. So pretty cool there. The Cleansing Flame aesthetic is sick. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, like this Cauterize and then Cinderstorm. Yeah, you're liking the vibes on these things. Yeah, and then if you got that too, I mean that's pretty cool. Like if you're like maybe you want to use Stone Giant just for the drip. I mean it's cool having those balls floating around. You know what we could also do, just to add to the flavor a little bit, is we could go Iron Atra there. There you go. And we could even make some. I mean that looks pretty good. Gotta like that. You got the floaty glowy balls of different sorts. That's pretty fun aesthetic right there. Good as a reason of any to be a DK healer, or any classes for the drip, right? I take it that Stone Fist ability or whatever it's called didn't make the cut, or is it Giant Morph of that? It's Stone Giant. Yeah, it's Stone Giant, so it is the morph of Stone Fist, and we're using it for the stagger buff, which we would need to cast once every 6 seconds to keep that up. And oftentimes you can front load it to get the stacks up, and then after that you just want to keep the stacks up. All right, do we have... Oh, okay, so we're unlocked. We just don't have any of these spec'd into. So we're actually to the portion where we take a look at these. Well, we have a couple of other skills here. As I mentioned, Elemental Susceptibility. That's going to be the easiest way to keep our Combustion passive procced. Which kind of means that, like, if we need sustain, then we might put Elemental Susceptibility on our bar just for the sustain. But as we can see, we're getting short on room here, so something's got to give at some point. I think generally speaking, our sustain should be just fine, and we actually won't worry about proccing that. If you're in a dungeon, maybe you would need it, but if you're in a dungeon, you could probably drop some of these skills. Like, you're probably not Stone Gianting in that situation, so you could probably drop Stone Giant. I mean, you got to make sure that it's on your back bar, because it is a Destro Staff skill, and our front bar is a Resto Staff, but, like, that would work. That's probably what I would do. Fun fact, I've learned the Resto Staff is not required for healing, but Destro Staff is. Talk about goofy. That's interesting. What do you mean? Like, why... So I assume you're finding some source of minor resolve and that minor berserk. We kind of talked about that earlier. What's required for the Destro Staff that really pulls you in? Can you set this to heal? No, that'd be insane. Okay, you can't. Just double checking. Now I'm like, wait. Why do you need the Destro Staff? I'm trying to see what you would... I don't understand why you need the Destro Staff. Inquiring minds want to know where, Moogle. All right, so main heals that we're going to look at here. One of them's going to be Ulfsild's Contingency, and I'm sorry, I might need to pull out some scripts and learn some stuff. I haven't messed with this character with healing in a long time. Let me see. No, at least with my goofy build, the Ice Blockade is more valuable than other alternatives. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Makes... Yeah, if you want to... Are you trying to apply Brittle? Is that the deal? But that's cool. So our class mastery here, for each enemy hit within 8 meters up to 6, gain 50 weapon and spell damage and reduce your damage taken by 2% plus 1% for every 5 enemies. Nothing, we're never going to use this. It's not really worth it. We're increasing our weapon and spell damage, which I guess would increase our heals. We could take this to increase our heals, I suppose, just in a general situation, um, and reduce our damage taken, I guess. But this is not, it doesn't really make sense. It's more for solo. You could use it on maybe a tank, maybe. Oh, you're good, man. You're good. I don't think it's distracting. I mean, I think it's like right on. I think it's what we're talking about. But I can keep going if you want to. You know what you think. I can tell you what I think. So if we looked at this, that beneficial signature and affix scripts apply to you and your allies. Um, so if we look at under damage shield, only applies to you and an ally. I need to double check this. This is one of those things where, like, why is the wording different? I think that it might only apply to you. So if we want to provide these buffs for our group, such as Gladiator's Tenacity, reducing their damage taken by 8% for 6 seconds, then we would, which is like, this is a great ability for damage reduction. We could also do Sage's Remedy, giving a bit of a heal over time. Now, as we see with all of our other heals, this is a pretty weak heal, right? Pretty weak hot, like 5,000 over 10 seconds. So another 500 over 10 seconds. It's pretty weak. And then the burst portion of this isn't horrible. It's 8,500, 8,600, we'll call it. If we look at something like our combat prayer, we can see that it actually heals for less than that, or 8,000. So it does, so the main burst heal portion of that is decent. The other portion of it seems kind of weak, to be totally honest with you. Like, what do we have back here? So I'm trying to think of, like, yeah, we got 1,500 from our energy orb. So the burst heal in this is like pretty decent if we wanted to go that direction. But the heal is not worth it. I would think that, like, running, instead of Sage's Remedy, again, running, oh, I picked the wrong skill. So running something like Gladiator's Tenacity would be the way to go. And then we could provide some buffs for our group. So we got all kinds of stuff here. Savagery and Prophecy. Well, pretty much every class has this coming from a class skill. As we looked at earlier, for a DK DPS, it would be our Fu, which is Flames of Oblivion. We chose the other morph, which is Cauterized, does the same thing, provides both the magic and stamina version. Pretty much everybody has that, which is part of the reason why you don't really need a Nightblade anymore. Maybe we never did. I don't know. At least in recent memory. I mean, at some point we did. Let me see. Healing here. Okay. So I guess I should look at these other things. So a Snare, class mastery went over. It's not that great. We could do damage. We could do a really bad heal. We have Warrior's Opportunity, increase damage done to your next direct attack. Growing Impact just makes it where your affix apply in a bigger area. I don't think we really need that. So I would probably say Gladiator's Tenacity for that one. How dare you utter those words? Oh no, what did I say? I don't even know. So Breach, we don't need to apply Breach. Intellect and Endurance, this is actually a useful buff. Typically, if we have someone running, we're going to have someone running like on a Arcanist running Zenith's Disc, and it provides this buff. So we're not really going to need it. Why you hating on Nightblade? Oh, hey man, I love my Nightblade. What are you talking about? Am I missing some comments? Let me make sure I've got all chats here showing. No, we're good. Okay. We don't need Nightblade anymore. Maybe we never did. I meant, I said that, guys, and it didn't even register to me. I'm such a dork. Yeah, so I mean for the buffs, okay? Right now, the only thing you need in a group for buffs is you need probably a Zenkosh DK, right? But anybody could run Zenkosh as long as you have a DK. Maybe you have a DK healer, right? So you need Zenkosh in a group. You do need a DK in a group, though, because there's several buffs that they're going to be able to provide that are unique. And then in theory, you need a Warden, but like a warden is a good idea because they provide those things, but you don't actually need it. There's no damage increasing reason to have a warden. It's for damage mitigation. And even then, I think there's something you could run that would from scribing that would probably replace most of what a warden does. I know they get the increased minor toughness, but I don't think you really need the extra health anymore in most situations. So I don't think it's necessarily needed. Um, let me see what else. A Sork for the Berserk from their Atronach, and that's it. As I guess you need one of a. Well, you have the Sork, so the Sork is providing the buffs. I think that's it. I think the unique buff on the Sork, if I'm remembering correctly. There might be one other class, but literally that's it. So, like, you could run anything else. Now, you want an Arcanist for the Xena's Empowering Disc, but you're going to have one. So it's like kind of it goes without mentioning for the most part. And there's a few other things, but like there's no other reason. Like you can run anything. So you can run, you don't need, you just need one of those things, and you can run anything else on all the other setups. That's what I'm trying to say. So. But yeah, I do love my Nightblades. You guys know that. I'd say try Soul Burst as opposed to Contingency, but can't do Gladiator's Tenacity on it, which I think is ridiculous. Yeah, I mean the Gladiator's Tenacity is also kind of crazy. You need a Nightblade to account for the edgy player. I mean I've got 3, and the only reason I only have 3 Nightblades is because I deleted one because I really just couldn't. I was like, why do I have 3 or 4, and I like needed a character slot, and I had to delete somebody, and I couldn't justify because I have specs for everything, multiple for some stuff. Okay, Resolve. So this could be a source of our Resolve if we wanted to look at dropping Combat Prayer. The thing is, Combat Prayer is really good. It's a really good burst heal. It's a huge area, so it's like, why get rid of Combat Prayer if we don't need to? Really only because we wanted to do something fun. He's not deleted. He's just hiding, waiting to strike. Yeah, there you go. Minor Vuln, bunch of sources of this. We don't typically need to be applying it. Brutality and Sorcery. Again, we're bringing this already. That's part of our DK kit. Innervation is a PvP thing. Minor Force. Everybody in the group is getting it from either Velothi, or if they're not, then they're running a very good dot, which is Beast Trap, so probably we don't need this. Not really any compelling reason. In Trash, when they might not have their Barb Trap, they're probably running Velothi. Everybody is, so we don't need this right now. Maybe at some point in the future we could, but not right now. Magic of Steel, this is automatically going to be applied in most situations. Protection. Protection is interesting. Now, there are some sources of minor protection that we could get, but this one is sticky, and it lasts for 20 seconds. So I don't mind protection here. And then Savagery and Prophecy, again, we already get this from a location. You know what we could do? So we have Resolve. We don't need any of these things in a trial setting. I would say arguably protection, maybe. Or I kind of like Savagery and Prophecy. And if we do that, then we could drop in trials, we could drop our need for... Oh, did I take it off? Did I take Cauterize off? Oh, no, it's on the other bar. Then we could drop our need for Cauterize. And... because, again, it's really only in certain situations. So maybe this could be our flex spot with our Cauterize. And then we could have this heal. Now, I will note that Ulfsild's Contingency, if we are using the heal, this is a good burst heal, right? We don't really need it that often, but and we can provide a damage mitigation ability, and we can provide Savagery. Everybody else in our group is already going to have it, though. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking protection. I don't know. One of those two. But everybody in our group, we're reducing their damage taken by, what, like 8% or something? Oh, I picked the wrong thing. Gladiator Tenacity there. 13% if you do it additively, which is it's not, but that's a decent amount of damage reduction, and why we would use this. Now, Gladiator's Tenacity, use it once every 6 seconds, but it's a big enough heal that we could keep spamming this and it would work quite well. I think Ulfsild's contingency is really a situational thing in heal checks and in really hard hitting fights. So typically, I wouldn't even run this, to be totally honest with you. Now, the alternative here is to run a damage shield, but then it's like, well, what do we run? I mean, I guess the other part of this is only going to apply to us. Maybe we would take class mastery just to increase our healing done a bit. I guess protection still works. We'd leave protection there. The thing is that, and you can see that this is like a 7,200 damage shield. Remember that our Igneous shield is like 4,000, so not quite half this, but not it's much worse. So this is what you could run instead. But I think typically this would be the way to go. Do we have Gladiator's Tenacity and Protection? I could probably learn those. Let me see if I have enough that I wouldn't mind learning it on this character. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't have an extra Gladiator's Tenacity. I need to make sure I'm continuing to farm those things. Okay, so I'm not going to scribe this. I think it's a very situational thing that could be really good, but it's really Ulfsild's contingency is like for hard-hitting fights. Contingency also requires being a librarian to unlock. Oh. Isn't that just like... I thought I had some characters that are like pretty low level in Mage's Guild. I thought, don't you just have to like be like level 2 or something? Isn't it pretty low? I think it's pretty low. Let's look at Soul Burst. Soul Burst is interesting here. So we have a heal. This heal is almost as much as our combat prayer, a little bit less. Beneficial signature and affix scripts apply to you and your allies. Beneficial signature and affix scripts apply to you or an ally. So they have the same thing here. I kind of hate this, but you know, it is what it is. The initial unlock. Okay. Like, oh, one of your characters does or something? Is it like cross account? All right. Then we have Acolyte's Potency. So you consume a, I don't know. Just know I don't have it yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's weird, man. That's crazy. I'm sorry. So Acolyte's Potency, consume a soul gem to generate ultimate. Okay. If we can't find something better, that's not nothing. We have our class mastery here. I don't think it's that important. Snare, we're not going to need. Lingering Torment, we're not trying to do damage. We have Sage's Remedy. Again, it's super weak, that heal over time. I should check this Sage's Remedy and make sure there's something not broken with this, like it doesn't heal you for more than it actually says or something. Rank 5 is needed. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's super annoying. That's a lot of Mage's Guild books. Some people say it's easy, and it's like, well, it's easy, but it's time-consuming to get all those books. Consume a soul gem to deal damage. We don't really care. Crusader's Defiance, remove a negative effect. And this negative effect could be very situationally useful, but for the most part, not really. So what do we have here? Like, Acolyte's Potency is almost like the best thing to choose. What about for our affix? We have Breach, we don't need. Intellect and Endurance, we don't need. Minor Maim. I mean, we could apply this. No, we don't need minor maim. I'm sorry, I was thinking major. Resolve. Okay, we could provide that minor resolve again, as we talked about that earlier. So is it Berserk? Yeah, minor Berserk is the other thing that we're missing. Where'd you get your minor Berserk from on your no Resto Staff build, Where Moogle? I'm curious. Was going to say easy, yeah, but only if you have time. Yeah, exactly. Ain't nobody got time for that. Brutality and Sorcery, we don't need. Again, the resolve we get from Combat Prayer. Courage, we could provide Courage, but again, you're going to have an Arcanist, and it makes sense that ability, Xena's Empowering Disc, works really well, and so it's just a better skill, so I wouldn't go with that. And then we have Expedition, really don't need it. Interrupt, you know what? I think it's good. Interrupt enemies. There you go. Where you were talking about this in an AoE interrupt. You could make one if you really needed it. Magic Steel, we don't need. Savagery and Prophecy, we don't need. So what does that leave us with? Basically nothing that we want here, nothing that we really care about or care about providing for our group. I would say for me, then that would make this like the best as a damage shield for everybody, I guess. I don't think there's a compelling reason to use Soul Burst, is what it comes down to. could use it, sure. Do you need or want to? Like, kind of not really. The shield for the group is like decent. This can be useful on certain classes that are really built around shields, like an Arcanist, but I think less so for us. Chicken says, does Mage's Guild Quest give you random drop of upping Mage's Guild skill line? It probably gives you. It probably just gives you, if you do the quest, it probably increases the skill line. I don't know though. I know you have to find the books most of the time, but maybe doing the quest gives you some XP as well. I would imagine that both are true, but I don't actually know. Chicken. Healing Smash with heal over time, and Berserk. Oh, okay. Healing Smash. Ah. Okay. Is this two-handed? Okay, yeah, it is. All right. Healing Smash. That's hilarious. Sage's Remedy, fairly weak on this one as well. Could restore some stamina. Fencer's Parry. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, all right. I see. Trying to think if there's anything else here. Heals you for 38% of the damage done. It's pretty hooked up. Guess not really useful if we're using it as a heal, though. Fencer's Parry could be fun in certain situations. Yeah, I don't really... I mean, Druid Resurgence for stamina back, not really... Oh, I guess it is super expensive. I'd consider the Druid's Resurgence just because it is so expensive. Sage's Remedy would also be fine, but are you struggling with stamina? I guess you're a stamina build on this thing, so maybe you have plenty of stamina. Only downside, Werebeagle says, only downside I found is 8-meter range. The Sage's Remedy may seem weak, but I think Combat Prayer Burst Heal with Hot attached. Yeah, I mean, the heal itself is bigger than Combat Prayer by like 1,000, so it's like a 10% better heal. You're not struggling with resources at all. Okay, cool. Then yeah, I guess just going with the Sage's Remedy and just be like, okay, cool, I got a little bit of hot. It's always wonky when they have the 10-second and then they have various timers of different times on the same skill. I kind of hate that. They've mentioned that they think it's like cheeky. They think it's like it's a different thing, and it's like, no, guys, it's not. It's not that cool. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, once every 20 seconds is actually better and is easier than having to use Combat Prayer and spam it. The other thing is that, like, it's 4,500. I mean, isn't Combat Prayer pretty high up there? I guess it's like 4,000. I only have one piece of reduced cost, I think, on right now. Yeah, so it's like 4,000, so it's not too much more. And I'm also wearing light armor, so I think it's the same price. I think it's the same cost. So Werebeagle, yeah, I think Stamina Healer is absolutely viable and would work just fine. All right, man. I'll DM my Goofy build if you'd like it later. Yeah, send it to me, man. I'd love to see it. All right, man. We'll catch you later. All right. So, yeah, so that's interesting. That was really cool. Glad we got off on that tangent a bit. So we see that Soul Burst we don't really need. Ulseal's Contingency could have some utility in hard-hitting fights. The only other thing that we really need, I think, is Trample. And the reason we want Trample is for heroism, major heroism. It's crazy. Now, the problem here is that everything else we can choose doesn't really matter. Some sort of damage. We'll pick, I don't know, we'll pick magic. Sure. And then our class mastery, what does this do? Again, let me just double check. Okay, it gives us potentially weapon and spell damage. Maybe we'll do that. Hunter Snare, we don't really need. Lingering Torment, doesn't really matter. We're not trying to do damage. If we were, this would work well. Although it's really awkward because the damage lasts for 20 seconds and the heroism lasts for 10. So we'll constantly be clipping it. Each enemy hit increases the damage. It's like an AoE/PvP thing. Assassin's Misery. This actually could be one of the better things because it guarantees to apply those status effects. Which, remember that Sundered, Concussed, or Hemorrhaging. No, never mind. I don't think any that. No, those are not gonna. We need burning or poisoned. Okay, but it could still, it would be good to apply those to an opponent. So those aren't bad. Cavalier's charge. We probably don't need. Immobilizing strike, PvP, and then we have the swiftness. So you can increase speed. Don't really think it's necessary for the. Uh, is it not minor expedition? It actually just is increased movement speed. Oh yeah, okay, cool. All right, well that's a unique speed increase if you really want to be fast. And then the Wayfarer's Mastery adds 30 seconds to the duration of your existing continuous attack passive ability effect. This effect can occur once every 1 second. Yeah, I don't really think that there's just to confirm, like, I think we'd probably go with class mastery just for the lulls. I don't really think anything else matters, to be totally honest with you. Here on the it's really just the heroism, and I found that on most classes, save the Necro and Arcanist, you want to run your class mastery because they actually provide you with either a corpse if you don't have any, or with a crux, which you want. So there's an option there. All right. I kind of feel like my Arcanist healer video, I kind of want to redo it. Like, it doesn't really make sense, but I'm not happy with it. All right, so normally we're not going to be running Ellie Sus, so we could put in Trample back here. And this ulti gen, especially for running Pillager's Prophet, is crazy, so we're always going to be using this. Let me see. What else do we got here? So, Mender's Bond, we've talked about this a bit before. This is... It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. It's really a pain to use. So I've mostly been using it only on a Arcanist as our way of generating Crux and having a decent heal. Is there a way... Can you also do... Oh, okay, you could do the damage mitigation. 10%. Yeah, you could do healing or shielding on this if you wanted it. Shielding is a little bit more, but it's once every second, so it's constantly getting overridden. If it's wasted, it's wasted. I think probably shielding is the way to go. And then, is there like a heal over time? So we have restore resources. Yeah, Sage's Remedy. So I think this is decent. It's actually it's half as... It heals for almost the same amount, but it's over 5 seconds instead of 10. So it's twice as much healing per second at about 1,000. So that's not bad. And then we could do minor heroism to our allies. This is a good use of this, like using this for minor heroism if you're not getting it from banners. I think running heroism on banners is the thing that makes the most sense to me right now, unless there's something that I'm missing or forgetting about. The other thing is, if you are getting heroism from your banners, then maybe running minor fatality. So allies in the link get minor vitality, and it increases their healing received and damage shields by 6%. Oh, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with Mender's Bond, Terrell? Sorry, man, I saw that comment late. Vulnerability here, we don't really need. You said you wanted to redo the video because you weren't happy with it. Oh, yeah, man, I am unhappy with it because I recommend using Mender's Bond as a way of generating Crux. And I think that's fine to do, but Trample, if you just did your class mastery on Trample, you're typically going to be casting this once every 10 seconds. You want to be gaining or consuming Crux, I think, a little bit more often than that, like 8 seconds. But I still think that there are other things like using Ulfsild's Contingency on an Arcanist and going really shield heavy. You could lean into the because they have passives that increase your shield, and you could also have your class mastery there to generate more Crux. And so I just think that maybe going like a fun like shield focus style on an Arcanist healer could be a better and more interesting, or at least more interesting way to go. So those couple of things. I also think my intro to the video was like really bad. I don't know what was wrong with me. I think I just like jump into the video, which maybe that was fine. I'd have to look at the data to see if people like stayed with the video, but I wasn't really happy with the overall. So one of the things on YouTube is that, and really all of this stuff, is that like the information you're providing is one of the least important things. The most important thing for you to do is to be entertaining. So if you're entertaining, that's why there's a lot of videos out there by a lot of people who have really bad advice, right? And people that have lied to their audience, that have cheated, like that have like made fake parses to make it seem like their videos or their builds are better than they are, et cetera, et cetera. But those people are successful because they're entertaining, and I feel like I failed on that video, and I also um, and I also just feel like there's a handful of things like I knew about trample then, and I've been waiting to talk about it in my healer videos because I want to do like a scribing specific video, and I feel like it's kind of a sweaty thing that you have to add in to your build, like maybe not for the basic healer. So, but anyways, I just wish I would have. I don't know. I think I could have let it cook a little bit more. Is all I'm saying. I think it could be better. Some of my videos or most of my videos when I do them, I'm very happy with them, and I'm like, yeah, my tanking breakdown, right? Like there's always one or two things where like, oh, I could have focused on this better. I could have made this more clear. I didn't say this, or I misspoke here. That stuff happens, but overall I'm happy with them. I'm like, yeah, this is my Nightblade DPS video I just did. Happy with it overall. I look at the Arcanist healer video, and while it'll be just fine for everything, I just wish it were better. I can see things where I'm like, yeah, I should have emphasized this better. There's just a lot of stuff where I'm just not quite happy with it. That's all it is. It's nothing crazy. I've tried Shield Healer on Arc. It's fun, but I don't know how practical it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that, Robert. Like, it might not be entirely practical, but I didn't really give it. So if you took there's passives in the red CP tree that will increase your shield value and decrease the cost. There's running, I think, Glyphic, or maybe it's the shield. One of them on your front bar because it'll increase your shields. And then if you have other ways of generating crux, I think it could be good. Anyways, kind of, yeah. ESO vids do better when they have misinformation. Oh my God, Terrell, like, oh my God, I feel seen, man. Like it honestly, it does feel that way sometimes, man. It does feel that way. I was checking out earlier. We're kind of getting off topic, but this is what these streams are about, right? I was watching. I want to look at this other creator who I've never watched any of their stuff or whatever. They're very popular. I've never seen any of their live streams. I was like, I'm curious. Like, they seem to have quite the audience for their live streams. Like, let me like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And this is a question I ask myself often, and I need to, right? And so I looked and I was like, man, this one has like, they got several thousand people watching, like, steady watching them. Like, what are they saying? And then I heard them say information that is wrong, that is just it was like some of the information that we've kind of debunked on this channel, right? Like saying that a necro has poor stamina sustain when it's just as good as everybody else's. And it's just like, it was a little, I try not to do that too much because it can be soul crushing. But I think the main thing is that, like, what I've seen overall is that you just got to be entertaining is the most important thing. Robert, I love the "Are you not entertained?" Crafty Pappy, I appreciate it, man. Crafty says you do a great job. I appreciate it, Crafty. I think with a lot of this stuff too, just the YouTube stuff in more generally, is just to tell you my own internal thoughts here, guys. It can be a bit discouraging to realize that it doesn't really matter. I know it matters. It matters to me. It matters to you guys. Okay, so it does matter, but the success of your channel or of your streaming and stuff like that really doesn't seem to have a one-to-one correlation. It's really hard to draw a direct line to having good and accurate information to like channel being successful. And it really seems like there are plenty of people that have and have given up, have labored in obscurity with trying to, do stuff like this and other topics as well. It doesn't have to be gaming, who were like doing really good content, we're doing really good work, but just getting people to see it is like the hardest part. And, I really appreciate it. on this topic. I really appreciate when people ask questions and you guys link my videos to them. I think that's the kind of stuff that it takes, is like other people recommending or whatever. But it can feel a little soul crushing to be like, hey, because it affects my life. So like I think my wife and I would have children if I had if I had like a real income, right? Like we would probably do that, but it's a little bit hard right now. It's like, is this the right decision? And even if I could just make enough so that I could continue to do this while having like some childcare or something, right? Like if I could make enough to be able to pay for some childcare, that would be different. And anyway, so it could just be a little bit tough sometimes. I super appreciate all the support, guys. I'm not asking for you guys to like do more or do anything you're not already. You guys are great. And it's the core people that are watching these live streams and stuff like that are absolutely what makes the difference. And everybody, I appreciate the support when you can. Not everybody can. I totally get that. Like I've talked to you guys before. I've grown up without a whole lot. I totally get it. But yeah, it can be a little bit discouraging. And I think sometimes I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? What could I do better? I'm always asking myself that questions. And I think sometimes it's if you're trying, like, it's maybe nothing I can do, right? Like whatever reason. But I am of the mind there's always something better I could do. So I can drive myself a little bit crazy of asking that question of like, I need to be more entertaining. I need to do, be all these different things. And it can just be a little tough. All right. Robert Miller says, kind of like you did with a DK healer, could you do a dungeon-focused tank? Most of what's out there seems more focused on in-game and trials. Yeah, I could do that, Robert. It's kind of not. It's not that much different, and so it's a little bit like. I don't know. It would be much the same for like a dungeon. I don't know if we're talking like non-hard modes. You could do some fun stuff if you wanted like a pseudo parse. I don't know how much I would have to say though, because I normally just take my trials builds into dungeons and they're just fine, and nothing else really. I'm trying to think. Would change that much? I'm open to looking into it, man. Be happy to chat about some stuff. So maybe remind me again in the future if we haven't gotten there, if it comes up. I'm open to the idea. I don't know if I'd have a ton to say. You can give some massive shields. Yeah, we're talking about on the Arcanist. Yeah. Well, and if you choose the morph where you heal based on how much you shield, I was thinking you could also juice your heals pretty well. So I don't know. I was thinking it could be fun. Hey, Lobo, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. Lobo says, after a DK healer, you'll be doing a werewolf healer. Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with a DK healer. Like, what's wrong with it, Definitely will check it out, though. I mean, sure, we could do a werewolf healer. No, I don't know. I don't know if you can do that. A Lobo, and just for everybody who doesn't know, I put out to channel members, right? So anybody on YouTube who, and actually I said anybody anywhere because I also had the Ko-fi. Anybody who is a channel member, I put out to them, and I said, and it was, you guys didn't, if you're not a channel member, you didn't see it because it only goes to channel members. And then I only have a couple of Ko-fi people, so I let them know. But or on Twitch really too. Any subscribers over there I let know just to like reach out to me. I don't think no one did, but I put out on YouTube and said, hey, if there's a build you would like, I don't normally my tiers for channel members, subscribers, whatever you want to call them, people who give money, to the channel. Normally, like I provide everything for everybody. I don't want my content to be paywalled for the most part, right? Not for the most part. I don't want it to be paywalled because I want everybody, even people without money to be able to enjoy all the content I do and what have you. So just on principle, I don't do that. Sometimes I'll release stuff early to them, but I only do that because I don't mind. Like I grew up again, without a whole lot. And so like I would go to the cheap movie theater, right? And watch stuff, months after it came out. Wasn't a big deal. I'm used to doing that. I'm also a late adopter, right? If you just don't buy the game when it comes out, buy it 6 months, 8 months out, and you get it for 40% off or 60 or more, right? You get it for cheap. So I've always done that stuff. So releasing that kind of content early, to them is like not, and even then I don't really hardly do that. But I was like, hey, I want to do something for the channel members. So I said to them, hey guys, request a build. Any build you want to do, request it and I will absolutely do it. And Weremoogle requested a DK healer. So that's why we're doing the DK healer. That's also why we did the Brittle another day, because we were asked for a build and ended up, it wasn't specifically for a Brittleton, it just the Brittleton ended up making the most sense. But yeah, that's why we're doing this, Lobo. But I'm not trying to just do something totally different or whatever. Terrell says, yeah, it does seem unfair how big some of them are while spreading nonsense. Yeah, it does. There, I appreciate it, Terrell. Feel my pain, I guess. I appreciate it, man. Would you slot AoE pools or Rush of Agony, something like that? Rush of Agony, is that the Arcanist ability, or we're talking DK, right? I thought we were talking DK. What is Rush of Agony? I don't remember. It sounds familiar. Is there an AoE pull in the scribing skill line? Oh, it's a set. Oh, it pulls enemies in. Yeah. 12 meters. I would tend to run. Yeah, I guess, it could be worth doing like just a general, it could be worth doing just like a general tanking in dungeons versus not taking in dungeons, because I don't do that. And as you pointed out, maybe no one really does. I'm just checking on a couple of sets real quick because I wanted to see what the range on them was, because I think I know the answer, but you can always be wrong. Yeah, so I think typically I would run the Vatashram Sword and Board, Robert, to pull enemies in. But yeah, maybe that's what you're getting at. Okay, I could see that being more. I can see the use of that. What about a tank/heal hybrid for dungeons? Crafty, are you talking vet or are you talking non-vet? Also, Crafty here is one of the people who we're doing a build for. For those who don't know, that's the Brittle End. Crafty is right. Crafty, that was you asking for the Warden build. That kind of worked out where like it kind of made sense to do the Brittleton. I actually think for you, Crafty, just as an FYI, I think we're gonna end up doing like 3 builds, and I'm gonna have like they're gonna be roughly like you start with like a base build, but then like you if you want to make it for the Endless Archive, because that's its own thing, right? So I'll have like an Infinite Archive build, then we'll have like the meta max DPS setup, and then maybe one with the with the Infinite Archive set. Ares Cry? Yeah, that's what it is. Hey, Knight. Hey, what's going on, Emmett? Okay, cool, man. You're going with Sniper. Yeah, I saw you when you did that yesterday, or you popped on a different one, man. And I saw you, and I know that Sniper and Emmett. I know you're the same person, man. But I appreciate that for letting me know. I'll probably forget at some point because having multiple names, man. But it's good to see you. I'm glad you joined the stream. Lobo said, "Hey, Crafty, I tried a Warden tank healer, but in some ways was really busy on trying to taunt, debuff while also trying to heal. Someone better than me could pull it off. Would be awesome if running 3DDs." Okay. Robert says it would be helpful, and I'm super new to tanking. Okay, cool. Like today, like today I was trying to Ice Staff tank on Nightblade. Figured I would use Rush for my AoE pull for Teleport Strike. I don't think that it works as an AoE pull anymore, does it? Or does it? Oh, does it pull in? Does it? Oh, yeah, it pulls everybody in. What am I saying? I thought you meant like as an AoE taunt. Does it pull them in and taunt them still? I thought they removed that so you couldn't AoE taunt, is what I'm thinking about. I think Rush of Agony is just fine. I would use the Vatashram Sword and Board ideally. And this looks like all enemies within 12 meters. Okay, yeah. Vatashram Sword and Board is the same distance, Robert, so Rush of Agony seems fine. You could just front bar the Sword and Board, and then you could pull them in by doing a shield bash or whatever. And it's also 12 meters. Bring back AoE taunts, right? I know. A lot of people, I didn't really care one way or the other, but except that I know a lot of people really wanted them, and they were taken away. and I don't know why. I don't know what was wrong with them AoE taunting, honestly. I think the answer is nothing. And also, people wanted to be able to taunt better, AoE taunt with their werewolf, which could be problematic in trials. But yeah, I don't know. Vetashram Sword and Board is nice in dungeons, but on harder content, Master Sword and Board is nice heal, easy to swap it out. Well, you use the Vetashram during trash, Lobo, is what we're talking about, to pull all the enemies in. You know, because even in harder content, you probably don't need it on trash. You know, so it's just nice to pull them all in dungeons, because everything dies so quickly if you're in a heavy hitting group anyway. So you just want to get it all grouped. Yeah. I also looked at, you know what I also looked at? It used to be good is, I forget what it's called. I want to say spinners or something. There was a set, there's a Swarm Mother, I think is what it is. Swarm Mother will pull enemies in, but you have to be blocking and hit by them, and then it'll pull them in. The problem is, like, you got to aggro them to you. So it's like, if you're way ahead of the group, you could do that. You could have that monster set on, whole block. But it's almost like you need to be a Sork so you can get ahead of the group so that all the enemies aggro on you, and then you just whole block and it chains them in. So Swarm Mother, I should double check. Let me Google that real quick. Also, for Weremoogle, when you're watching this after the fact, man, I'm sorry we went way off book here. We should get back onto the build here. When you block an enemy, yeah, Swarm Mother. Okay, yeah, that is between 8 and 22 meters of you, so it has a much bigger range than 12 meters. You spin strands of spider silk to pull the enemy to you and taunt them for 15 seconds if they're not already taunted. Yeah, so Swarm, and that's from Spindle Clutch 1, so it's really easy to get. Yeah. My audio sounds weird on your end. What about everybody else? How's the audio, guys? To be honest, single taunt is fine once you get used to it, but coming from another MMO, AoE taunt just felt more familiar. Well, also, I think you should give people what they want is, a big part of I don't think that's too much to ask. If people want something, give it to them. Unless you got a really good reason not to, I don't know, give it to them. That just makes sense. Have we scribed this already? No, we'll scribe it now. Okay. Did I just change it? Oh, we did already have it on our bar. Oh, because I had the... Well, whatever. I guess I can fix it. That's the wrong thing. Trample. Okay. Let's get back to this. Heroism, and then we had class mastery. That's what I... All right. Other options here. So we went through Soul Burst. We don't really need it. We talked about Mender's Bond. It can be kind of okay. Guys, if you haven't tried to use this skill, it's such a pain. It's such a pain to use. Oh, I'm crackling? Okay, I'm sorry. Whenever I'm tabbed out of the game, the audio will crackle. This is an ESO thing that just started with the updates. I'm sorry, guys. I'll try to make sure that I'm tabbed into the game. Yeah, all right. Sorry, my bad. No, man. I think it's ESO. Normally I hear it, and so I haven't been hearing it, so I thought it was fine. But apparently now, whenever I'm in ESO, if I try to tab out or something, if I'm looking at something else, then it crackles. So probably now it should be fine. Yeah, that's a new feature from ESO. I don't know why. I'm blaming ESO because it's the only game that does it, and I don't know what the deal is. Mender's Bond is pretty bad compared to some of the other scribing skills. Yeah, I would agree. It's a pain to use. In theory, the heal could be nice to be able to like hit people with the heal. Like it was broken. Be able to provide them with minor heroism could be useful, but yeah, it feels like very situational. It's not like super useful to just use overall. Okay, I think that's it, guys, as far as scribing. Let's take a look at our bars here and see what we got. So we kind of said, again, Ulfsild's Contingency situationally could be useful. We've got Illustrious Healing, Combat Prayer. We've got our Cauterize. Again, if you know, Weremoogle, if you want to not run a Resto Staff, you know what abilities to swap out for these two. So you'll be good there. Cauterize, going to usually be 4-man or really spread out groups like Vass. Vass this would be great for, but otherwise it's going to be kind of a flex spot. You could almost say that, like, probably like run Cauterize or run Stone Giant. Probably what I would do. So this would probably be the flex spot here. So one of those two skills would go there. Then we have, and we're going to keep it on our front bar because we have to cast Stone Giant so often. Cinder Storm here, great heal. We're going to be using it all the time. Could really go on any bar, I think. Kind of doesn't matter. What else? Energy Orb, Vigor we like, Wall we want. Cinder Storm, I think Cinder Storm will just stay on our bar. Like, we could swap it out, but we need if we don't have another DK, we need something to proc Mountain's Blessing. So probably it's Cinder Storm. So keep that in mind. Probably don't want to take it off our bar because we want to proc that Mountain's Blessing. If we have another DK that's keeping this up, and again, if we're using Stone Giant, that'll also keep it up. So there is a situation where we could take this off. So I guess keep that in mind. And then Igneous Weapons, we're not really going to take that off our bar. We kind of have one more flex spot here. One other heal that's really good that I haven't really talked about yet is Circle of Protection, Ring of Preservation. And this actually provides, it's a fairly small area. It is a stamina costing heal, but it's a really good one. And it provides minor protection. Again, it's stationary, but if you want an extra heal, it's pretty good. It's pretty hooked up. So, and on the DK, we should have some pretty good sustain, all things considered. So I think this is roughly what we would go with. We might swap where these skills are at just a bit. Usually we keep our shorter duration skills, like this 10-second Ring of Preservation, on our front bar. Orb, we do want some heals on our back bar, so Orb could also go up here, but we've got several other skills that are all short duration, so it kind of just depends. Igneous Weapons, super long. Cinder Storm, a little bit longer. So I would say roughly this is it. The biggest problem I see now is that sometimes we're also going to want to run something else. So there's a couple of skills that we could use. For example, isn't it Undaunted? Yeah, it's first thing. Our Overflowing Altar. In any group, one of the healers needs to be running Overflowing Altar. You could drop Ring of Preservation, especially in mobile fights. Could be one you could drop. Again, as we mentioned, there's a situation where you could drop the Cinder Storm. So I think that would be one of the flex spots here. And, Trample, too, if we don't absolutely need it. If we're running Pillager's Prophet, I would run Trample for the most part. I don't know if I would take it off my bar. But, we're never going to take Igneous Weapons off our bar, really. So it kind of – and we want to run Stone Giant. I would say in most situations. If we're not that sweaty, guys, you're just learning how to heal, don't run Stone Giant. No matter what content you're in, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a DPS loss. And it's more important that you don't kill the group because you're not healing well than you try to keep up some buff that is probably not going to make or break anything. Let me catch up here. It's okay now. Okay, Mender's Bond is pretty bad compared to some of the other scribing skills. Yeah, I agree, Robert. Yeah, Mender's is a pain. I always feel like the tank is dodging it. Yeah. I like it in, so Robert, I use it, I have used it in DSR hard mode to put on the tank that I'm guarding to constantly provide them with another sticky hot. And I personally find that works pretty well. You can also choose to absorb, more of their health, I guess. I haven't tried that, but I do it as a heal or as a shield on them even though it doesn't heal everybody that great. Oh, did I click out of the game? Let me make sure. Even though it doesn't heal that great, it does what it needs to. I've got another sticky hot on that tank, and so then I can heal everybody else, and it frees up my attention a little bit. I don't feel like I need that at this point, but I do think there is certain niche situations where you're like, hey, I'm keeping another hot specifically on the tank, but yeah, it's not that great. Yeah, feeling like the tank is dodging it is very common, too, for any of those tethered abilities. But would you vet SS hard mode with it? With Mender's Crafty, or I'm sorry, Wampus, I probably would. So that would be another situation. Again, you don't really need it, but if you cast it on the person that was going into the tomb, you could maybe get another hot on them, and if you chose the shield, it's going to constantly refresh, and so that could make them easier to heal as well. And you could also put minor mending on them, so that could make healing tombs a little bit easier. if you're good enough that you can make sure you hit them with it, and I have all your hots down, probably you didn't need to begin with though. So it's like stick to one way, half a dozen the other. Robert says Ulf Seals with the heal hot buff affixes is pretty good, or shield heal. Yeah, I would agree. I sent it in chat if you see it. Oh, okay. DK healer in general. Oh, yeah, man. I would. Yeah. DK. There's. Just to make this. Yeah, it's a great question, Wampus. There's nothing wrong with the DK healer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the DK healer. They have a great class heal that heals for a lot in a small area, heals for more than most heals, but in a small area. So the trade-off for the bigger heal is that it's a smaller area. Nothing wrong with that. It still works great. Igneous weapons, being able to provide that for your group is awesome. Being able to Stone Giant is awesome. If you want to use Cauterize in 4-mans, that's going to be awesome. Because people are already spread out anyways, right? So like in a 4-man, I would drop some of these skills, right? Like would drop, like we said, Stone Giant, and would run Cauterize. It's as good as any other healer, Wampus. So yeah, there's and honestly, the main reason. So for those who don't know, the reason you don't run a DK healer is because you always have a DK tank or a Zenkosh DPS. Okay, that's the only reason. But we've gone over how you don't really need a DK healer in most content, and so if the Zenkosh doesn't want to stagger, then it's up to you to do it. Yeah, did you make a video, Sniper? Is that what's going on, man? What do you sending me here? Oh, it doesn't want to hyperlink the whole thing. It just sent me to YouTube more generally, but I can find it. What are you sending me, my dude? All right. Well. Now, there's probably a few other things that I'd want to check. I mean, I honestly, every time I'm doing a build, I usually just go through all the skill lines, just like we did, just to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Crushing shock obviously can be situationally important, as can Sus potentially. Again, we don't really have the bar space for it, so less of a deal here. Trying to think of anything else that we'd really want. If we wanted a passive skill, probably we just keep Cauterize, but we could also run Inner Light. Bone Shield periodically, like really Cloud Rest is the main place. You run Bone Surge, so that people can use the synergy, puts a shield on 6 of your allies. Now that we have Ulf Shields, though, like I don't know, it provides major vitality, so it's pretty hooked up. But there are other things we could use for that now to provide shields for the whole group. If you have an Arcanist, a lot of other things, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I mean, Purge, obviously, but I think we've gone through everything so far. So I don't think there's anything else really to cover here. I think we're good to go. The last thing here was really just that Ring of Preservation that we can situationally slot. And again, if we're running multiple, as I mentioned earlier, if we're running multiple stamina costing abilities, having on our bar Cauterize so that we can run tri-stats will make keeping up these stamina costing abilities a lot easier. So I'm trying to think of what you would do. I think I'd have to drop either Ring of well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what I'd drop. There's not enough space on this bar, to be totally honest with you, because you really don't want to drop these heals. I mean, if you don't need the heal, you can drop them, but most of the time you do. So I guess that's kind of a tough situation. I don't know what you would if you don't drop Stone Giant. I don't know what else you do, because I think I would want to keep the rest of these heals, and probably, if you do this and you're only running one stamina costing heal, you probably don't need the tri-stats. So kind of an interesting situation there. I don't know. That doesn't. It's not perfectly. Everything doesn't quite align in a way that's super satisfying. But I think overall, this works quite well. And again, if I was in a dungeon group, right? So we have cauterize on there. I'm never on a dungeon group, right? I'm never going to run Ring of Preservation. Nobody's ever going to stand in it. So in that situation, we would slot radiating here, and then we would be good. And we have 2 skills. Like, this is actually probably like a really good dungeon like healer build. If anything, I would say like dungeon healer, this would work pretty well for. And then if you really wanted to, again, the shield's so weak. Never mind. I was like, you could run Igneous. The shield's too weak. It's just not worth running. You could run better shields that are AoE now with the scribing. So, yeah, this is. I think that's it, guys. Remember that or rather for those who don't know, I guess all of your gear, all of your, for the most part, all of your champion points are all going to be the same on all healers. The food you're going to use, et cetera, as you go down the list, almost all that stuff is going to be the same no matter what like class you're on, with like very few exceptions. Let me see, what do we got here? It's a 1-bar build. Oh, you made a 1-bar build. Or is it somebody else's? Wampus says Bone Shield is a nice shield and helps group. Yeah. The problem with it, Wampus, is that you have to be... So for those who don't know, the problem with it, and the reason I don't recommend... You have to be the synergy for this, you have to be like standing on top of the person. So it doesn't work super well because it can be kind of annoying. It's fine, but like you got to be like standing on top of the person to hit that synergy. If you want an interesting puzzle, try a Stamina Arcanist healer. I think it might be the only real good stamina healer possible. Yeah, I've done all the background work for that, Robert, because I was going to put one out, and I just didn't think anybody would care. And a lot of people, when I mentioned it, kind of hated on the idea. And so I was like, I mean, it's kind of fun because it's different and what have you, but it's a lot of work to do it well. And I don't think most people care or are looking for that. So it's like, it's one of those, it's like a fun video, right? Like I do those kinds of videos for my soul, if nothing else, right? Like I want to do a video because I really want to do a video. Sometimes you got to do that. Most of the time I'm trying to make videos that have the most broad appeal, but I absolutely agree. And you totally can. Maybe we could do it like a live stream instead of like doing an actual build guide. Cause then it's like a couple of hours and that might seem like a lot, but it's a lot less than making a 40-minute video that I've watched 6 times through and also had to record and had to et cetera, like get all the screenshots and editing and everything else. So yeah, it could be fun. We could do that. It seems like a lot of you guys seem to like these kind of videos or streams, and we can try to mix them up and keep them fresh and different, so it's not just like the same thing every time. But I enjoy doing these, so if you guys enjoy watching them, which it seems like you do, we can definitely keep these things going. Sorry, I accidentally tabbed out there. I forgot I can't do that in ESO. You just built one, Wampus. Oh, cool. Okay. Sorry, Magark healer. Okay. Yeah. Pug run with Stam heals. Let's go. Hey, Knight, I don't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to know how do I connect you through Discord? Yeah, you can send it to me that way. Yeah. If you just go onto YouTube, Sniper, if you go onto my main page on YouTube, there'll be a link there to the Discord. Join the Discord and then DM me. You can't DM me unless you're in a Discord that I'm in. But yeah, you can join the Discord there. And hey, Robert, geez, man, thanks for the $20, dude. I appreciate it, man. I feel bad now because I said something about the money earlier. But hey, man, I appreciate it, dude. Huge help. Appreciate the love. Yeah, so again, it seems like you guys like these kind of videos, so I'm happy to. Hey, man, it's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. So it is a lot. So yeah, don't say it's not much. Hey, I'm always happy to answer questions, man. It's fun. Like I love hanging out and chatting with you guys. It's kind of cool. It's like that's why I want to be able to do the YouTube thing full time. Here, let me drink my water. I mean, yeah, I want it to be a job and everything, but it's a job that like I would love, And so that's why I like doing all this stuff because, yeah, hopefully I can be entertaining. Hopefully I can be, provide a lot of valuable info. But having a job that, yeah, it's work. There's times I don't want to parse. I don't want to do whatever. Just like any job. But overall, just I absolutely love doing this. And so it's like kind of I'm sure that a lot of us feel this way, right? Like in a different life, you're like, yeah, being a streamer might, or maybe it sounds terrible, but it's when if the, and I think they will, if we can just get the financials going, then like dream job, nothing else I could ask for. So yeah, Mage's book. Cool. Well, oh no, it's not even a Mage's book, was it? Or is, oh, my Mage's Guild is maxed out on this character. Okay. Well, I think that is it, at least for this build specifically. I think we've arrived. We've gone through everything. Plans for later on in the week, guys. So again, you guys have been liking these kinds of streams. I mean, we're still going to do trials and everything else, but I am also trying to figure out what you guys want to watch. What is the most fun? And I think that, chatting with people, like we got to chat with Luna yesterday, was really good. I think on Friday, I think is going to be really fun, because Friday I want to talk about like the state of ESO from an objective point of view. And I want to look at some of the, the corporate stuff that's put out, right? Like there's the studio director's letter every year, which is like mostly just like garbage. I do want to talk about it, but I want to talk about like there are people that are frustrated with ZOS for good reason, and they are really mad about stuff, and it colors everything you see. And then there are also people that are rose-tinted glasses. ZOS can do no wrong, right? Like anything wrong they attribute, oh no, the reason that doesn't work right is because they have some reason. You're like, nah dude, the code is messed up, right? So there's both those extremes. But what I think is really like the accurate, like true thing is that's what I want to talk about. And it's both. It's some really good stuff. It's some really bad stuff. And I think that the good stuff will surprise a lot of people. I am someone who has historically been, I'm very critical. I mean, I think you guys know this, right? Like I'm very critical. I actually think that there's a bunch of positive things that people are not getting, like ZOS is not getting credit for, or I mean, it's kind of their own fault if they're not getting credit for it. But I think there's a lot of positive things going on that I don't think that most people are really seeing the big picture. And again, a large part of that is ZOS's fault, right? Like they should be messaging better and stuff like that. But I just want to talk about it, objective POV, so we not taking copium, huh? Terrell. I think objective, man. I don't know. We could do a copium stream. Do you want a copium stream? We could do both too. I think objective. I think that there are objectively some really positive things going on with the game, and I think that people feel like after last year that was like the big thing, and then we got scribing finally after 10 years, and then like the game is kind of dying. I think that's what people have felt. I don't think that's the case. I think, in fact, the game is finally being improved in meaningful ways that are really important. And I just want to talk about that a little bit more. And with that, like there are people that don't care. And the reason they don't care is because ZOS hasn't listened for so long. That's like, it's like being with your spouse, right? Like you ever ask your spouse to do something and, do you a favor, like help you out, right? Because you're really busy or whatever. And they just don't do it. And then finally, like way later, my wife is looking at me, staring daggers at me out of the corner of my eye. I'm the spouse in this situation. Okay, I got a thumbs up for that. Okay, so maybe you're the spouse. Okay, and they've asked you to do something and you haven't done it. You finally get around to doing it and you do it. Does your spouse care? No, they fucking asked you to do that like weeks ago, and you're just now getting to it. No, like yeah, they're glad it's finally done, but they're not happy with you for doing it because, again, they asked you to do that so long ago. That's ZOS. Like a large, it's like, okay, cool, you're finally going to look at the bugs. I didn't, guys. I did the whole video on it, and I hope a lot of people went in and like put their comments. I couldn't bring myself to tell them about all the bugs. One is because there's so many small bugs that it seems like picking five. Like the problem is there's so many little things that just don't work correctly. It's not necessarily like one big thing. I can't pick a couple of big ones like block not always working right. But the other thing is like I have given up on trying. I'm tired of asking. I've asked you to do this stuff so many times. I've given you so much feedback, and now you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm ready for feedback now." And it's like, "No, that's..." So there is understandable frustration with that. But at the same time, that's what I'm talking about, like taking my own personal feelings out of it and saying like, "How do we look at this objectively?" And I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Robert says you're going to get in trouble. Yeah, definitely did. I can feel her stare from here. Good, Terrell. Yeah, it was absolutely. Yeah, she was. Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. That makes sense. That checks out. King James says, as someone who tried to get into this game for years, being an Elder Scrolls fan, I never got hooked until October of last year. I think it's a solid place at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that like if you're new to it, there's a ton of content, and you could have a lot of fun for a very long time with all of the content in the game. And so like there's still that too for any new player. If you've been playing it for a long time, it's a little bit different. Um, what's my username, dude? It's at Night Horror, man. I'm at Night Horror everywhere. Yeah, and I'm at the top of the Discord, man. As the my name should be displayed up there on the top right. Sniper, so you should be able to find me, man. Just tell it to DM me. Robert says I'm the same. I was a huge Morrowind Oblivion fan, but couldn't get into ESO until recently. Yeah, and I mean I think that's fair. It doesn't really fulfill on a lot of what I think a lot of us liked about those games, for sure. And I think part of that is a problem because it's an MMO, but I also think it's a lack of imagination. I mean, when the game was coming out, like there were so many things that were promised, and there were some people that were with the company that didn't stay with the company. And I wonder if they just got frustrated that like I think that the people that would have made the game that we wanted to play left the company early on and never got to make the vision that they probably saw. Now, I don't know if other people were there or whatever, but I mean, I think we can clearly say, even without knowing what happened, that, you know, ESO until recently, and even then, it's still not the same. Still not the same as the single player games. And I think that it's fair to say that that is, it could have been. And I think anybody saying, there'll be a lot of people that say, no, they've done the best they could. I think that might be a valid opinion to have, but I don't think that. I think it's a lack of imagination to think that they couldn't have made ESO more like the single player games. It just would have been hard. It would have been harder, probably, and that's fair to be like, yeah, it would be too hard. So, you know, yeah, is what it is. But well, guys, I think that we'll call it here for today. Normally, I think we're going to be doing another run after this on Tuesdays. We'll just have to see. Daedric did have a run going, and it was canceled. So I think that's not moving forward, not going to be happening anymore. So Tuesdays might be a little bit different. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing It Takes Two with Nani, and then oftentimes we jump into something from there. Thursday, we'll probably do we have the hard mode, and we might do something beforehand. Friday, we have two hard modes, VSS and VDSR again, and we'll also, before both of those, we'll be talking about with cope or without cope. We'll be talking about the state of the game for ESO, and then guys, I got a Sunday group that I'm trying to start, and it's a training group for VSS hard mode. However, I'm gonna solo tank it. We're gonna have a solo healer. And we're trying to get people, it's a training run. We're going to get people their first clear, but we're going to get it with a 1-1-10 setup if we can get the people. So if you are one of those people and you want to join, right now we need people. We've got very few. So That's on Sundays. Come by the Discord at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We only got a couple people signed up so far. We got a healer, so I baited a healer into it, but we need some DPS. Um, so if you're free, Wampus would love to have you, man. I'm sorry about the other day, by the way. Uh, oh no, I alt tab. Shit, I did. Thank you, Terrell. I can't hear it. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyways, Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So looking for DPS mostly now, or yeah, just DPS right now. So yeah, let me know if you're interested. Even if you don't meet the recs, but you're interested, let me know. Maybe we can help you out and get you there. But we're gonna call it here for today, guys. Again, I appreciate it. Robert, hey man, thanks for the $20. I appreciate it. King James, thanks for being a channel member. Weremoogle, Nani, everybody else is a channel member, guys. I really appreciate all of you. And yeah, guys, we'll hope you have a good evening, and we'll catch you tomorrow. All right, see you later, man. Thanks, Terrell.